Hello everyone, and welcome back to eCabinets Tips and Tricks. In this video I'm going to show you how to put the base molding on these resizable columns so that it will resize with the columns. So be sure to stay tuned and check it out and see how I've done it. Okay, so let's get started putting our base molding on this thing, but before we do I would like to point out a couple of things. This particular method is not necessarily to be used for cutting this base molding on a CNC machine, and as well as getting it the individual lengths off of the cut list. This is mainly for visual purposes or presentation purposes, but it will resize when you change the width, the height, or the depth of this column. There is a way that you can put individual boards around here. There's a couple of different ways. One way is to use helper stretchers and whatnot, and I'll probably do a video on that. And another way is to use moldings. If you click on moldings, you can add moldings. You would select a base molding that you would want and set your length and your miters, and then place them individually by rotating and using your align item tool all the way around the column. But that is problematic due to the fact that if you change the width or the depth, those will not resize. You'll have to remove them and put more on them. This way is going to be quite a bit more dynamic, and there's cons to this also, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. But first, let's go into the stretcher editor and let's get this thing rolling. So I'm going to hit home because I've been rotating it around here and it's hard to tell which is the actual left and right end. I'm going to click on my left end and I'm going to click on my right end, and I'm going to put a left-right stretcher in here. I'm going to go to add stretcher, and I want to, right now I got my grain direction set at 90. I'm going to put it at 0, and I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to select my material that I have made up for my base molding. I want 4.5 inch, so I got a 4P5 board stock, 4.5 inch. It's 4.5 inches thick. Okay, so you need to use how high you want your base molding to be. That's how thick your material needs to be. I'm going to use a front-back orientation. I'm going to click OK, and it's going to put that in there for me. I'm going to hide these two right here. I'm going to hit H to hide, and I'm going to select my newly created stretcher there. I'm going to click on Adjust Stretcher, and I'm going to go to Advance. And I'm going to use Inset 2, and I want it to be on the deck and the bottom of the deck because I want it to go all the way to the bottom here, the underneath side of the deck. And I'm going to click on Inset 3, and I want it to be on the front of this stretcher right here. So I'm going to click on my front stretcher, and I want it to be on the front of that stretcher. Inset 4, I need to be on the back and the back side of the back. Inset 5, I need to be, it's on the left end, I need it to be on the left of the left end. Inset 6, I need to be on the right of the left end. I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to set my locks here. I'm going to Inset 2 at 0 to put it all the way to the bottom. And I want Inset 3 to be minus 3/4. Now you're going to want to set this at whatever the material thickness that your baseboard or your base molding is going to be. So if you're going to be using 1/2 inch base molding or 3/8 or 5/8, this is what you want to set right here. So I'm going to click that and click lock, and I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to click right click and click copy, We'll highlight Inset 4, right click and click Paste and lock it. And do the same thing for 5 and 6. And I'm going to go Done. Now you can see that we've got our 3/4 offsets all the way around our column there. We're going to go back to main. Now we're going to click on that and we're going to go into the part editor and put our octagon geometry. We're going to rough it out, and what I want to do is show you another method. In the first video I showed you how you could create edges and put your chamfers on there. We're going to do that right in here. I'm going to click on my chamfer tool and I'm going to come down here and I'm going to click one distance and I'm going to type in 2. I'm going to hit enter, and now I can just click on this edge. It'll highlight red for you, and when you click on it it'll turn green and it puts a 2-inch chamfer there. And do the same thing on all 4 corners. Okay, so we got that. What I want to do now is show you how you can make this more authentic by offsetting these by the material thickness that you're going to use for your base molding, and make a pocket so that if for whatever reason you need to or want to put a door on this, or leave one side open and actually access the inside of this column, this particular part will not be protruding 4.5 inches up inside your cabinet. If I click on the eyeball here, you'll see what I'm talking about. Clicked on my eyeball and hold down my shift key. This is actually 4.5 inches thick. So you're going to be up inside your cabinet 4.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the contour mode. I'm going to right click. I'm going to click Create Edges. Now I'm going to click on my delete tool here and I'm going to click delete inside interset window. This way I can get rid of 2 lines at once. I'm going to get rid of those and I'm going to offset. My offset tool here, and I'm going to make sure I got 3/4 selected, or whatever thickness that you want your base material to be, your base molding material. And I'm going to use move because I don't need the outside lines on there. I'll click OK, and I'm going to offset those by just bringing my mouse towards the inside here. If I wanted them outside, I'd move it that way. So now I need to trim 2 entities. I'm going to click up towards the intersection here and just click on each line. You can see the line highlight red, and just get kind of close to the intersection there and it'll work just fine. Now I'm going to go back into our exit contour mode. I'm going to right click, cut pocket using close contour, and select that geometry. And I'm going to click next, and I want to cut through. I'm going to click OK, and yes, I want to remove the geometry. I'm going to go back to main and keep the changes. Now you can see we got our roughed out geometry here. If you look, you can see that it goes all the way through, which is what we're after. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to go into Constraint Manager. By clicking on it, it'll take you directly to that part. Now as you can see, if I click on this, I've got several other parts in here. Excuse me. Now what I want to do first is I want to constrain this pocket to the outside of our part. So I'm going to click on my horizontal constraints, and I'm going to constrain these points here. And I'm going to come to the outside edge, and that is 5/16. Actually, I want to be on the inside. and this is just personal preference. We're going to have a lot of numbers in here, so we need to try to keep them organized. And I'm going to click on this one, and it's going to be 5/16. This is the offset. This is 5/16 this way from this point. And I'm going to do this one next, and it's going to be 3/4. That's how thick our material is. Do that one, and then this one is going to be 5/16. And then 3/4. Let me move those around a little bit. You really don't need both of these 3/4 or even both of these 5/16, but I like to put them in there just in case, just to be on the safe side. A little bit of insurance there. Alright, so I got those. Now we need to do our verticals. I'm going to change my font color just so I know, or I can keep everything separated. So I'm on a black here. Let's go to blue. I'm going to click OK. Now we need to do our verticals on these. So I'm going to go click on the same corners. The only difference is we're doing vertical constraints. And we need vertical and horizontal. So now I need to click on this one. I got that one there. I need to click on this one, and that should be 5/16. It is. And this one here should be 5/16 also. This one will be 3/4. And then this one will be 5/16. Now, I need these constraints. Now, if you watch my very first video, this is identically the same. And if you want to, you can fast forward through this. First, let me change my font to a red color. So, I'm going to do horizontal first. And I'm going to come way out here maybe. Past this one. This is, like I said, this is identical to the way that I did the top and the deck and the big ship. So now we're on our vertical constraints. I'm going to put you way up here. And click on this node. You start to get a lot of different constraints in here. It's always good to use different color fonts so that you can make heads or tails of everything. Now what I need to do is click on my edit button, and I'm going to go into my Excel. And if you haven't viewed my first video, again, make sure you check it out. And what I've got here is I've got my horizontal constraints, which is parentheses width minus width divided by 2.414211347 in parentheses, and then divided by 2. Now if you don't have Excel, you can take that formula and type it into another program like Notepad or whatever, and you can access it from there, and then you can click on it and right click copy, and go back into eCabinets, and you can easily paste it instead of having to memorize that and type it in every time. So I'm going to edit. I'm going to do my widths first, or my horizontals. I'm going to right click, I'm going to click paste and hit enter, and do the same thing with all my horizontals. Paste and enter, paste and enter. Now I need to grab my vertical constraints, which is H open parentheses, h minus h divided by 2.4142137 in parentheses and divided by 2. I want to right click and click copy and go into eCabinets and do the same thing. I'm in edit already, so let me get my verticals here. Paste that and hit enter, and as you can see it's automatically highlighted, so I just need to right click and click paste and enter. Now if it's not highlighted, you need to highlight it and enter. Now all I need to do is kind of neaten this up a little bit to make it a little bit easier to read. Grab the wrong one there. Just so I know what is doing what. Some of these things can be a little bit confusing, especially if you come back to them several months from now, trying to remember what you've done. And these right here are hard coded, so, and like I said, I'll show you the pros and cons to this thing. This is one of the cons. If you wanted to change the width of your, or actually the thickness of your base molding, you would have to come in here and delete all of these constraints. Well, you wouldn't actually have to delete them, it will delete them for you, unfortunately, and you'll lose your geometry and you'll have to redraw it. But the plus side is that you can automatically change the height of this, for example, from 4.5 to 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever you want. That looks pretty good to me. I'm going to go back to main and I'm going to keep my changes, and let's see what we got. If I hit my escape key and I click on these stretchers here and I hit H to hide, you can see that it resizes this pretty good. I mean, it all looks real good. You don't have to create a cutter to cut these miters when you go to put a profile around this. It all works real good. So let me hit Control R. First let me hit escape and Control R to restore that, and we'll test this out and see how it resizes. Let's go 12 inches by 12 inches here and hit enter. And you can see that it resized just fine. Let's check out the inside and make sure it didn't screw up. I'm going to hit H to hide, and that looks good. Alright, so for the pros and cons, as I was saying, I'm going to hit Control R to restore. As I said, the cons are that if you want to change this from 3/4 here to 5/8 or 1/2 inch, you would go into Stretcher Editor and select the stretcher and adjust the stretcher, and then change this to whatever you wanted. But what's going to happen then is you're going to get a message saying that there was a problem generating constraints. You're going to lose your constraints, and you're also going to lose all your part editor cuts. So if you plan on using certain thickness material, make sure you draw it up first with that. And as you saw, it's not really that difficult to put the geometry back on. The pros to this is that if I go done here, you don't even have to come back into Stretcher Editor to change the height of this molding, because it's an actual thickness of material. Now you can do it in Stretcher Editor. You could click on it and you can right click and you can go construction settings and you can select your new material, whatever thickness you want it. That's one way of doing it. It works fine. There's another way. If you're in main or in custom layout and you're working with the customer and they say, well, I don't want this 4.5 inches, I want it higher or lower, or you may want to add a layered effect, a stacked. In other words, you may want another piece coming out right here, and you may want this 5 inches high and you want this one 2.5 or whatever. You can even add more on top of this, which is good. But the way you would change this is you could go, if you're in custom layout or batch, you can go to, or even in here, you can go to adjustable features and you can click on global item modifications, and I click always regen. Go to your sheet stock because your stretchers are made of sheet stock, and I'll click on populate material from files, and you can see we got our 4.5 board stock here. I want to change it, so I'm going to select it. I'm going to select a new material. Now let's say we want to go to 3.5 inch solid stock, and I'll click on that. Now that's got a maple image. If you don't want a maple image, you can change it to whatever you want. I'm not going to go through all that trouble. You would go to define materials and take care of all that. I'm going to go OK, and I'm going to go OK again. Now when it regenerates, you'll see it change just fine. Now it says the global item modifications have been made successfully. And as you can see, now we have our 3.5 inch base molding on here. And like I said, you can add more stretchers in here. You can make whatever thickness, whatever width you want. And it's real versatile this way. So that being said, on the next video, I'm going to show you how to put the profile around the outside edge of this. And what I want to do is I'm going to actually use this base molding right here to create a cutter, and you're going to want to check that out. So with that being said, subscribe to my channel so that you can get all my latest tips and tricks. And if this video helped you, please give me a thumbs up, and thank you for watching, and have a good day.